Everybody, we back for another one. Man, we got two good ones actually today. And this one says it's kind of crazy. 320,000 black women laid off. Unemployment is rising. Okay, let's see what they're talking about.
If you want to know the direction of the jobs market, pay attention to the black unemployment numbers. That's not my guidance. That's the guidance from economists and experts who know much more about this than I. But let me explain. Right now, the U.S. unemployment rate is at 4.3%. We just learned that very few jobs were added in August, about 22,000. That's not good.
All right, now the crazy thing about this, or just going off of the report, it's hella low, but the numbers are inflated. So the numbers aren't even legit numbers. And then I see on Indeed, they have a lot of offerings, but the reason why I say Indeed, because I always see videos about people complaining about the jobs on Indeed. They're saying that they're like scamming people, like they're doing fake what is it, interviews, and they're having people submit and do everything, but nobody's really getting hired like that. So, and I'm telling people, I'm like, man, technology, especially the AI, man, the AI and robotics is about to change so much, on top of the economy and financial institutions are doing so terrible right now. So it's a lot going on.
If you were to describe this via text, you send a red alarm emoji. For black workers, the data is worse. For now, another month, the unemployment rate is going up. It's now 7.5%. That's the highest it's been since October of 2021. And it's a number we've been watching ever since it was 6.8% in June. It's two alarm emojis. You dig
Okay.
even deeper, and you'll find that black women are disproportionately struggling right now. The jobless rate for black women is at
He said disproportionately struggling right now.
6.7%. The last time it was that high, September of 2021, back during the pandemic. And one more red alarm emoji. Why is this happening? Economists have told us that when we see the unemployment rate going up for black people, it's a sign that it could soon go up for all people. And as our CNN business team explains, black workers are disproportionately employed in frontline and lower wage industries, as well as the government workforce. So what
This is getting interesting.
comes for black people first often comes for everyone. And those good government jobs have been a tool for black people to build stable livelihoods, especially for black women. But the federal
Now, I'm gonna interject, because just to give a quick history lesson, a lot of people don't know that in the late 80s, early 90s, they had a pilot program that started in California. And it was primarily, I believe, in the Bay Area. Then they outsourced it or kicked it down to LA. And the program basically was a government program where they incentivize corporations and different, I guess, government officials or positions, and they were supposed to integrate women of color, and they had incentives for these corporations and companies that did that. They did it, a lot of that throughout the 80s, and that also led to, well, as you already know, a lot more programs for women of color when it comes to education. There's a lot more incentives when it comes to that. Just like if you are familiar with starting a business, or you're going for a business grant, that there's only certain categories. You have women of color, you have veterans, and you have certain neighborhoods. The thing about the certain neighborhoods is there are specific zip codes. So that's the thing you keep in mind of these programs. None of this is happening by mistake. It's all happening by design.
The workforce has been a target of this administration, along with immigrants and diversity initiatives. We have a lot to talk about. So joining me this morning, Latasha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, Stephanie Donegan, a former Republican candidate for the Georgia Senate, and
Okay, just to also give context for myself, I am neither Democrat or Republican. I am an independent. I'm a capitalist. I am about me and me and me. I don't even play the fake black and white game. I don't believe people are crayons. Y'all hear me say that all the time. But I'm going to let them continue.
founder of Your Rich Life Media and the Stillwell Society. And Dalila Paul is the national editor of the news site Capital B. Welcome to you all. Stephanie, let me start with you. 22,000 jobs in August. June revised down now, the first month of job losses in 5 years. The president promised the golden era for America. Where is it?
I mean, ultimately, we have to just be honest and
The golden era is going to be crypto, AI, and robots.
say it doesn't look good,
And assets. If you have assets, a whole lot of assets.
which I know people don't expect me to say, but the reality is right now, because of all the cutbacks in the federal government, it is going to hit Black women disproportionately.
Now, another thing that a lot of people don't know is that a lot of stuff that was established in this government was never supposed to be from jump. So what you're seeing is the trajectory swings so far in one direction to where it couldn't go any further in the opposite direction because we are in a de facto corporation. So what people think this is going on and what's actually going on is two different things. So you're seeing a dismantling happening right now, but it looks like it's presented in a different way. So unless you know what to look for, unless you know true history, true, like what has happened. I'm talking about like what has happened on the behind the scenes. All of these things, you're going to be lost in the sauce and things is going to be very confusing out here. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be very emotional. Don't be that person.
Right now, because of how much we are employed.
The Black women have largely used the federal government as a band-aid, so to speak.
Before he gets to saying what he's saying, I don't think that they use the federal government as much as the federal government used them, because that's how this system works. And there's multiple reasons behind that, but again, back to the 80s and 90s, while they were giving a lot of women those opportunities in the federal government to run this system, the men were given guns, drugs, and prison. And that also fed the system. So the beast set it up so it's like one was the food and one was the administration monitoring the food. You got to know how energetic vampirism works.
Or even a trampoline in order to try to get one up on the rest of society to say that they are the ones that are killing it and winning in society and absolutely destroying everything, when in reality, it was nothing more than a DEI crutch that prevented them from actually facing the reality of what the job market has always been. It's been
I don't know if it's always, I don't know if that's 100%, but I'm going to let them continue.
Based. Now, I will also tell you that in corporate America and in private and the private sector, that there has been a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to check boxes. And that is obviously shown even more in the fact that over 320,000 Black women have lost their jobs this year in general, right? And so when you take that into consideration and then you throw one more cherry on top of that and you say, well, a lot of these women have already championed and been, at the front lines of saying that they are the most educated, they the best, they buy the most homes, they do all of this stuff, right? They are the ones that are growing the most, when in reality, it was an alley-oop that was thrown to them.
Okay, I'm not going to dismiss that. That probably it has a lot of truth to it. It was the alley-oop, and it wasn't intentional. It wasn't by mistake. It definitely was by design. But and this is where it gets into occultism, and when it starts to get into metaphysics and it starts to get into the shift and what's everything that's happening right now. Part of the reason for the alley-oop is to set things back into what it was before this artificial patriarchal system got started. Like, this system is not that old, and it only got established when Rome really started to extend its reach globally. Like prior or probably a couple of hundred, maybe 100 years, a couple of before the Christian Crusades actually started. So what's actually happening is we're going back to how things used to be. Like I said, the pendulum has swung so far in one direction, is going to swing back the other direction, and the way things came about is going to be the same way that they unfold. And the people who are supposed to be in position, higher position, is going to be so-called black women. You feel me? As far as, because again, the planet itself is correcting itself. A lot of people, you take it how you want. I really don't care. This is a feminine universe. We're on a feminine planet, and it's a feminine nature. So therefore, just off of that design alone, women hold a certain position of authority and power that men don't, and that's why we all come through this simulation from a mother's, from the womb. We all have belly buttons. It's not a person who's listening to these words come out my mouth who doesn't have a belly button and who didn't come in this incarnation through a woman's legs. So just based off of that, it's swinging back and it's going back to what it was supposed to be, because that's what it is in natural organic law. Like, dudes can get mad and say whatever they want to say. This is just what it is. You feel me? Like, this just is what it is.
And they wasn't just the most educated, they was the most enrolled. So this was the play. Let me break the play down for you, all right?
Now, you see how he said they was the most enrolled? And you remember I said earlier, in the 80s and the 90s, the government had gave incentives to corporations to bring on more women of color and get them integrated into corporate America. And a lot of the opportunity was in government positions. And that is also part of why he's saying what he's saying.
The play was for them to go to college, take out a whole lot of student loan debt.
Hear what I said.
And then they work for the government, right? And so if you work for the government on an income-based repayment plan, then eventually it will get forgiven, while at the same time it gave them a leg up in a career in which it was pretty safe, right? Knowing that they more than likely would never really get laid off. And the fact that you would get a lot of merit, because you were black and you were a woman. And so all of those things in place kind of sort of made women haughty, right? Arrogant.
But all those things in place was because that is where things was always supposed to be. It was never supposed to be men doing what they're doing, and it was never supposed to be a patriarchal system. The only reason why it was because it got hijacked and Rome did what it did, and then we had the creation of the system that we are in today, which is being dismantled in every area, because that was for the age of Pisces. This is the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius may function very differently. And even from the age of Aries, it was when it had started off. But prior to that, it wasn't. It was not what you see. Yeah. So, yeah.
Towards other people, and specifically men and black men, and to try to act like they were better than them, because they were trying to act like, well, it's because I'm more educated than you, I'm better than you, why you not leveling up now, why you not doing what you're supposed to do? The market was supposed to determine, and capitalism was supposed to determine who get these raises, who get these jobs, who was supposed to be the most successful, so on and so forth. So
now that's also the issue with that is the people who were taking advantage of that prior to that. Again, we already know how the rules and how the system was set up. So it's like depending on what side of the seat or what side of the shit you sitting on, you feel me? It was never for you. And I'm talking about most men who look like it, like this. You got that melanin. It was never for you, buddy.
So now you have an environment where black women and women in general and people in general that, was getting these basket weaving.
But I will say, before I let him finish, as the system crumbles and falls apart for, everyone else who's been winning on it, the worse it gets for the system, the better it gets for us. Because the system was never made for us. It was made to vampire and feed off of us. So, yes, you want the system dismantled.
Degrees. they have to compete. They have to, try to be what we are and what we have been dealing with for a long time. And so when you look at these jobs and
That is
rendition of these
facts. That's
jobs,
facts.
there's investment inside of America from all countries, trillions of dollars that are poured in the country, but it takes time in order for that to grow legs. Meanwhile, you also had the Department of Government Efficiency actually auditing the federal government to try to figure out where all of the money is going and why are our taxes going up? And it was because it was going to people that weren't really doing anything inside of the federal government, yet they were getting a huge paycheck while at the same time getting their student loans forgiven. And so now that diversity, equity, and inclusion and, removing these check boxes and now everybody got to compete based off of merit, you see them being disproportionately the ones that are affected as far as the job market itself.
That being said, I do believe that it is going to bounce back with the new businesses and new jobs that will be coming. But I think we need to give it time. I don't think we've given it enough time.
That's something we heard from the Commerce Secretary as well. Let's play what Howard Lutnick said.
We've seen that in all sorts of agencies throughout this government. The holdovers from the Biden administration they're just bent against the president's success. They're rooting against America and against Donald Trump, and that's got to end. So he can't replace somebody, 2 weeks ago, and you expect fundamental change.
Latasha, he says, give it time.
The challenge with this is that when you look at black women, we, in particular in terms of women, we are, in terms of participation in the labor market, we're 60% more than all of our women counterparts of the labor market. But what's interesting in federal jobs, we're about 11.7%, which means.
And again, even the numbers that they give here is not, nothing is what they say it is, but yeah.
Means that's in parity of our population, right? But when you look in the private sector, we're less than 1.8% when you look at higher management jobs. So what we have seen is that federal jobs have actually created a pathway and opportunity that black women.
You hear what did I say? You hear what she just said, and what did I say earlier? They created a pathway because they engineered this in the 80s. It was a pilot program from the 80s. A lot of people don't know why shit is how it is because they never check the origin of things. They never go to how things was when it started or before it got started to see how did it came about. That shit is crucial.
It demonstrates that when black women are given an opportunity, that there are federal protections that allow us to matriculate, that what you see is that we're able to get representation. What he's saying around that we're supposed to just play on the market, but what we're seeing is an underrepresentation in the market, that oftentimes we're underpaid in the market, we're in entry-level jobs. You do not see the same kind of economic stability that we've seen with federal employment.
I saw your facial expression.
Because ultimately, a lot of the hiring I feel that's happened within the federal government was to check boxes for DEI. Not
they mask it as DEI or whatever, you feel me? But they was implementing it and doing it before they had that title. Because again, it was a pilot program. Now, also, DEI did not just affect them, you feel me? It was a wide range of people, you feel me, who got. You had to be on the checklist, and they was looking for everybody. Some people got more checks than others. Some people, like a lot of, if you look at this guy, if you had a penis, you probably didn't have any checks if you was melanated with a penis. It was not for you because your check was in the prison system and in other ways. That's the way the game's set up, man. It is what it is.
necessarily because this was just perfect for them. And I only say that because of how many black women have been employed. And I think that's part of the reason is we're seeing the layoffs that we're seeing and the unemployment because that's how they got hired in the first place.
I think the interesting thing about that is that in terms of federal jobs, that is merit-based, that people actually are able to keep their job.
Cat fight. I didn't know this was coming.
Or even to literally ascend based on being merit-based. You don't see that in the private sector. So I think it's really to say that black women working in these jobs is to check a box. It ignores the fact that is a merit-based.
Well, to a degree, because I do know for federal government, depending on what your history is, if you have worked in the military, if you're black, you do get extra points when it comes to hiring.
Okay, so bingo, like I just said, it's certain incentives, you feel me, that started. Remember I was talking about the grants that's given from the government. You have this for women. They have women of color. they have veterans, and they have certain areas, certain urban areas. Those are the categories that get a good percentage of grants. You get what I mean? So it's what she's saying. If you hit two of the check marks, like you're a woman of color, and you in the military, that's three. You feel me? And then it's like, man, if you from a different area, it's so much. But it's like, man, it's these things, the truths have to come out because people have to realize that what kind of game that they was playing and why things are how it is. You know, like.
And so being black in general will push people up when it comes to hiring. Being a black woman will push people up when it comes to hiring.
Yeah, can I pause?
Baby girl is cooking. I ain't even gonna front. Yo, she is cooking with fish grease. And so what she's basically telling them is that they didn't necessarily deserve these jobs. There were positions that were created for them, and then the jobs that were available, they were pushed above other people that more or less could have or probably should have gotten a job above them, but because they were using this as a diversity, equity, and inclusion and an opportunity in order to push them up, this is what you see as a result. Now we have a correction of the market, and now they're going to be the ones that are disproportionately the ones affected. It just is what it is.
I think we have to think about
This is true. This is true. But again, everything that's happening out here is happening by design. Social and psychological engineering is very, very real. So, in the 80s, I keep referencing back to that point because it was so important. The 80s and 90s. While you're coming from the 70s, a lot of men had went off to war. They came back with PTSD. So you had a spike of brown, or you feel me, heroin, and a spike of alcohol, you know, and other little issues in the urban areas in the 70s after the civil rights movements died, and you know, with the Panthers and all of that shit from the 60s. After that got X, the 80s was the rise of guns, gangs, and prisons. You feel me? They was doing a lot of this with the urban areas, you feel me, where so-called black people, melanated people are, and they was doing these things. They say, you know, CIA was bringing in the guns and the drugs. Then, while you're doing that, you had the presidents of that time was having a war on drugs and a war on, you know, basically the hood. But you had the government giving the hood the guns and the drugs, and then you had the government, you know, also saying, hey, man, look, we got to get these people who have the guns and the drugs. So, because that's what our country does. That's what this corporation does. I'm not going to say the country because there's a difference between the country and the corporation. What the corporation does is it causes a problem so it can provide the solution, so it can seem like it's on top of things. That's the game. That's always been the game. So in the 80s, while they were giving incentives to, you know, corporations and for women of color to get into these positions, you know, get into these schools and to move up the way, you know, of society, but then also they were in certain positions to keep society rolling and going efficiently because they are extremely efficient. They are extremely efficient. The men were getting put into the system as far as the prison systems, as far as, you know, running them through the jurisdictional, the law, you know, like that feeds the beast because every time somebody's arrested is money for filing. You're getting money for going through the process. Where these people, the lawyers, the judges, the police, the sheriffs, is funneling money through the system because of the crime. You get what I mean? And when you have on one end, you have the prisoners, on the other end, you have those who are keeping the legal system running, the wheels turning. That's what these women were doing. So because everything is coming apart right now, you get what I mean? It's different sectors that's going to be dismantled before it all collapses. And there's going to be a lot of truths coming out, like what's happening right now.
the impact. I mean, the fact that you have hundreds, thousands of black women who are out of jobs. Women from the age of 40-something, 50-something who are caregivers for their families. We've had reports. We have interviewed women who are struggling right now. So I hear what you're saying about the checking of the boxes, but like I think we're losing sight of the human impact of this.
Actually, I agree with
Facts, because it's like, man, they put them in that position and had them emotionally tethered to it. You get what I mean? And it's like people have a hard time unplugging from the matrix and from the system, but the system is just that, you know? And it's like you cannot be so attached to this system to think that it's not what it is. But then you have so many people who have been indoctrinated and been educated falsely that they don't even know what it is that they in.
you on that. I actually feel that it's quite unfortunate that that has to happen, but we cannot continue to keep people in jobs to keep a payroll going.
Man.
I think that's unfortunate.
But that's not, I mean, again, I have to disagree with you. I think a lot of the women who have been losing their jobs have played critical roles in government. And it's beyond
Hey, but that don't mean nothing. See, y'all gotta listen to the context and to the words. Yes, they played critical roles. That's why this is what I'm saying. They were playing critical roles in doing some things. You get what I mean? In the government, doing these positions, while men wasn't. So at that time period in the 80s and the 90s, you start to see the division between the men and the women start to widen. They widen because of the financial and economic differences and the opportunities that was available. So if you, again, from the 60s to 70s, it was already, we was already dealing with what we was dealing with. But we at least was together as a family unit. They didn't want that shit to happen because it was still destructive to the system. So what they did is they start to plant the seeds to divide the men and the women. Now, 30 years, almost 30 to 40 years later, you see the results of that. You see the seeds start to bloom, and you see how it is right now. You have a lot of women saying, hey, I want a man that's on a level equal to me or higher than me, because that's what society is telling you should go for. But in reality, they're not giving the opportunities to the men. They're only giving the opportunities to the women. So the women are going to be elevated higher than the men. And it also started when they started to do Section 8 and when they started to do some of the social security services or social services. Like the requirements that they had for women to qualify was it couldn't be a man in the house. You get what I mean? Like it was kind of put in the position of Uncle Sam being the man in the house, which made the gap wider. You made it very, very wide. And now, because it's been like that for so long, it's collapsing. In reality, is kind of like, it's kind of showing that it's like, man, you was just a number. Like you. Let her continue.
DEI.
If it was
It's
really
beyond
critical,
DEI.
they would still have their job. It wasn't that critical.
No,
Man.
they don't have their jobs because now there's a policy in place that really has been racialized. It's not. We're looking at a space that how were they able to ascend? It wasn't about the checking the box. It was hard work. We know that in a culture as in America, when have black women ever been given something just because we're checking a box?
With diversity, equity, and inclusion and affirmative action, literally. So look. They are speaking
Just like the social services and with like I said, the incentives that they was given. Now I'm not dismissing the hard work that was done. They for sure put in that work and they did the work good. That's the reason why this government was functioning so well and why like these different systems that was also like poison to our communities did the damage that they did, because we was enforcing our own fuckery on us, or we was enforcing their fuckery on us. Well, they had our women enforcing their fuckery on us. So this is what we get.
with their emotions. The lady in the middle is absolutely cooking, and the other two are speaking with their emotions because they are upset at the fact that black women have been affected, or they are now being impacted in the ways that men have been being impacted for a long time, in which we just had to adjust to the marketplace. You cannot be given a position.
And that's what everybody's going to do. Everybody's just going to have to adjust and adapt, because it's going to swing back. It's going to swing back to where it's not really so much centralized everything. Everything is going to become more decentralized.
position just because you are a black woman. That is what the lady is saying.
The women, we are the cornerstone of this economy all across that.
Well,
Bingo,
I hear you, but
you're
I
right.
can also say that one of
She
my
not
first
lying.
jobs was for the federal government, and I was very clear that I got pushed up ahead of people because I was black and I could check the box.
Well, let me ask you
Damn.
this, because there's a gender.
Damn, that's deep. Damn.
Oh,
Ms. Katika Roy, who calculated between February and July that 319,000 black women lost their jobs in the private and public sector. In that same period, job increases for white men was 365,000. There were 176,000 job gains for Hispanic women. There were 142,000 job gains for white women. And so when you suggest that
Hey, you it was a few people who wasn't mentioned at all, but that's the game. That's the game, man, because it goes, these administrations, like I said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. It's left wing, right wing, same dirty bird. It doesn't matter. They have agendas. And the agendas usually run tandem with each other. So it's like you have one that is putting on one group, you feel me, that's causing division, again, unity. And then you have the other group, you feel me, who gets in power, and then they start to put on a different group, and it causes more division because they're ping-ponging and pinning each other, pinning the groups and the people against each other in different ways. That's all it is. It's a divide and conquer game.
these black women were in jobs to check a box, reconcile.
And now they're in the positions to check a box. People be so in their emotions they don't see the game.
That with the increases for these other demographics and communities.
It's the game.
Those jobs were earned and they deserve better jobs and deserve to have more jobs.
No, it's the game. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. It's the game. It's the game. That's why they're there.
While the hundreds of thousands of black women were just there to be pushed along and
I know it's simple when I see one, but let's continue. I'm enjoying this.
check a box.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying because
Okay.
I
ultimately,
don't think he is simp, but you feel me? I think it's a game, and I don't think people realize the game that they playing. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
I think we all can agree that DEI has not just helped black women. So that's in the first place. DEI has helped minorities, women, white women. DEI has helped not just black women, but when it comes to the conversation of
Not so much the men though.
federal workers, with us being such a large percentage of federal workers.
It's deeply.
She's white. She's right. She's absolutely right. And
Hell funny. He says she's white. All right, I got another one from this guy. He's a funny man. This is part 2 to this. So let's get into it.
Now listen, I am no economist. I hate economics. I dreaded that class in school. But I know black people. And so the signs about the impact of this mess on black people were there very, very early on. As soon as Elon Musk started running through our federal government, destroying ish, I knew that was not going to be good for black people. Even without the data.
Hey man, fuck what she talking about. Like I said, what's bad for this corporation is great for us. It just depends on what side of the fence you are on. What side are you on? Are you on the side of the artificial corporation, or are you on the side of organic law? And I'm not talking about anything that's man-made. I'm talking about something that's bigger than that. And what we're moving into is more in sync with what's man-made. Now, I'm not saying that it's gonna be it's gonna be a smooth sail. It may be some hiccups getting there, but yeah, bruh, it's the corporation is done.
I just knew anecdotally that the federal government buoys, it is an anchor for the black middle class. I knew in my own family that basically my mom, my parents' entire generation of my family all worked for the federal government. And they weren't even in like the DMV or some major federal government regions, but they all worked for the feds. And so I knew this was not going to go over well. And
Now, what did I say? What program did I say in the early 90s, late 80s? I'm telling y'all, man. I don't just be saying shit. I'm telling y'all, like, what actually happened. You got to go back and study the things that they put in play, because that is the why. That's the reason why we're dealing with what we're dealing with. It's decisions of the past that make for the issues of today. And the issues of today and decisions we make today will determine what's going to happen in the future. It is what it is.
we are getting more and more data about this. It's gonna get worse in the next few months though, because the people they took that
It's finna get worse for everybody.
early out, that weird option they
Well, unless you've been on point and in sync.
got that weird email, they aren't even showing up as unemployed yet in our data. And then we know the data probably is even worse than what's being released.
Facts.
Because these people like to lie about this. But all the
Facts. Just like they lie about how good it is. Man, they just lie.
signs are saying that black people, the black unemployment rates are starting to be red flags for economists who aren't even black, even they understand that when America gets a cold, black Americans get the flu. And we are the first red flag here, y'all, about how bad this economy is getting. And me and my friends, I'm telling y'all,
Because y'all don't understand, man. This really, man, I can't even say what I want to say on here because they probably gonna block me, man. But it's a good possibility this is your land. Let me just put it like that. It's a good possibility you have been misclassified and you have been called something completely different. And before they come out and tell y'all that, hey, look, y'all not really from this place over here, it's a good possibility that y'all from here and we just took it and then gave y'all a different identity. Because it's more fucked up, you feel me, if they have to tell us the exact truth. But they're not going to do that. They're going to try and kick the can down the road as far as it can go.
we all got degrees, and we are bracing ourselves for this because it's gonna get worse.
Yes.
Having a degree.
Before he gets to speaking, it has to get worse for it to get better. This shit has to fall apart just so we can move forward because it was never supposed to be in play. The issue that everybody's going to have if they're holding on to a false, artificial, patriarchal system that was never supposed to be established
Does not protect you or insulate you from the possibility of getting laid off.
Facts.
And we all know that the federal government specifically, and a lot of parts of private industry and academia, has always been a place where black women have done the minimum. And when I say the minimum, they are not going into STEM fields. That's one of the reasons why you have places like Black Girls Code and all of this stuff, because you don't have to incentivize people that are doing the most. Or
that may be, like, I will say that, but that's also part of it is because a lot of the positions that they would give them are administrative and management positions to keep things in check because that's where they excel at. They are extremely great at these type of tasks. So it's like they will put them there and they may not know anything about how to use the coding, but they will have a team of coders under them. These companies know who is who and know what's great. Man, it's like, man,
are doing the best for themselves. Now, obviously, we know that, that does not absolve everybody, right? We know that there are people that do go into it. However, when I was in my software and engineering classes, I didn't see any black people. I didn't see that many women at all, let alone black women. So if we want to really talk about numbers, demographics, areas of study, having a liberal arts degree, African American studies, underwater basket weaving is like, as I like to call it, a lot of these different degrees. They got that as a minimum, ran up a whole bunch of student loan debt, went into the public sector so that they can get their loans forgiven on an income-based repayment plan over the next 10 years. And that way they didn't have to be responsible for what they did. That is the true.
I don't know if that's just them, but regardless, it don't matter. If you ain't in line, this is going to go two different ways. We either going fully all the way technical out, and it's going to be robots and AI controlling everything, or the sun is going to turn everything off. That's it. Those are the only two directions we are going. So, I advise you to be prepared for both. You should be studying and working and doing as much as you can with AI and robotics right now. On the flip side, you should be absorbing as much sunlight and getting as much DNA downloads and unlocking your cells as possible. You should be in nature. You should be working on your unit, your tribe, finding your people. You should be fucking around with your assets, gold, silver, land. You should be looking into alternative assets like cryptocurrencies and commodities, oil, uranium, shit like that. You should be doing all of these things. But most people aren't doing any of these things. They're not doing any of these things. And they about to get hit on their head and the blow gonna be so nasty.
Summary of what it really was, right? The federal government for a long time, especially during the Biden administration, was extremely bloated. And the way that they were able to get away with these jobs numbers is because if you really started to break it down during the 4 years of the Biden administration, they were basically subsidizing all of these states and all of these major cities, especially sanctuary cities, with pandemic money. They were blowing up the federal budget in order to not invest in things that would be best for the United States of America long term, such as manufacturing jobs, the private sector, AI now, bringing chip manufacture. They didn't do any of that real stuff, right? But what they did was they kept on adding to the federal jobs, right? And so the jobs report was largely based off of taxing people more dollars, but never really making any real income or strides to make more income inside of the United States of America by building on American soil. What you're seeing now is that people are going to have to compete for, and obviously we know that manufacturing and several different industries, and there's trillions of dollars that's being invested in the United States of America, but that is not going to happen within 6 months as far as them building these places and plants and the
Facts. So everybody has to be on their shit, honestly. That's really what it is. You have to, like I just said, there's only two directions we're going.
jobs that's needed. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, are black women or people that are most affected by the layoffs in the federal government, are they prepared to compete in the private sector based off of merit? And so when I see women a lot of times I say,
I don't know if they're prepared or like mentally, definitely not. I don't think most people are prepared. I think the people who are prepared, because I don't think it's going to be a fake so-called black and white thing. I think it's going to be a, did you pay attention to what the fuck was going on or you didn't thing. Like, I think most people out here on La La Land, and since 2020 minimum, you should have been already hip to the game, but most people wasn't. So I think most people, you feel me, is doing bad because they don't know what the fuck is going on and they not paying attention.
I have a degree. For me, that don't mean anything because you don't have the skill set that is required for what the next generation of jobs is going to need in order for us to compete at the highest level and for you to remain employed. You know, men have always adjusted, shifted,
Facts.
done things with their hands, went into skill training.
I ain't gonna say all men. Some men did. Like, they adjusted and they did what they did to get by. But a lot of niggas ain't do what they did to have to fix this shit. Like, for real, for real. So I'm not gonna just say all that because, to keep it a buck, we shouldn't even be in the conditions that we in. Like, keeping it a buck. Like, the generations prior to me, and I'm 89. You feel me? And I have the old head, the ones prior to me. I'm like, fuck. Y'all was on a goofy ass gameplay. Like, the program that they had was terrible, but they all was on an indoctrinated program.
Trades, became linemen, worked in the oil field, some of the hardest jobs, right? We were willing to sacrifice and travel more instead of women being able to take maternity leave and stay at home or take time off and then jump back into the job market after they went to school for a whole bunch of years while they was chilling at home and working from home and also, you know, going to school online and stuff. And so guys have always adjusted to the marketplace, and that's how we chose our fields of study if and when,
to a degree, not everybody,
we decided to go to college. That didn't happen for women. Women thought that the federal government would always, similar to housing markets, that it would
I think that's most people. I think he putting a little bit more into women, you know, like, than what the actual reality is. I think most people depended on the government, and they don't understand that, like I said earlier, everything is becoming decentralized. All these institutions that people are used to going to take care of them, that was established in the age of Pisces, it's over. You're going to have to be able to really be able to do for yourself and for yours. That's why tribe and units and family and communities are very important. But that's also why they put so much into keeping people divided and corrupting communities and destroying neighborhoods and keeping 6 foot distance from any other person, so you don't want to come together and actually be a unit.
Never fail. And they would always have a job, and they wouldn't be affected by what happens in society. And even if there was a pandemic or a collapse, that you would always have federal jobs because it was a safe place. You didn't make as much money as in the private sector, but you definitely benefited because you had job security, the best benefits, and you were able to get your student loans forgiven. All of that went out the window. And so now this is what we're facing inside of the culture today.
And more is about to go out the window, just because all of this shit has to go. None of this shit is legit. It's all de facto.
Significantly worse. So the unemployment rate for Black men is 7.1%. For Black women, it's 6.7%. These have all increased. This is the worst it's been since around the pandemic era. And then this is also scary as well. Black teens are having an unemployment rate of 24.8%.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But like I said, y'all, go ahead, go check out this video, man. Prepare. This make sure y'all get into AI, get into tech, get into robotics, learn some code, and go fuck around with this shit. Learn these skills before it's too late. Now, on the flip side, that's for the technical aspect, the technical revolution. If the sun turns up and it's keep turning up, and now, to be honest, it's more likely that's going to happen than a full technical revolution. It's not. You're going to need people, and you're going to need resources. So if I, just for what I'm doing, man, get your tribe, and man, start to thrive. You feel me? You prepare, and get the resources and build. Start to build with each other. All right, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be smooth.